Hello. So, Daddy, can you explain
Yeah.
what happened?
Jack is sick today with a respiratory virus, non-COVID. We verified. But Jack has a cough. He's not going to be talking much. He's going to answer some questions along the way about this game. But we are mostly just going to go through the game. And this is a long game where the focus is the rook ending. So we are going to go relatively quickly through the opening. So this game is between Vasily Smyslov, world champion, and Smyslov-Reshevsky, who was also a world-class player
Hey, Daddy.
of the time.
Can I show them what's in my testable book for E45?
No, that's not what we're doing in this video. We're gonna go through this game. When you're sick, so no talking. E4, E5. Knight f3, knight c6, and we have Rory Lopez. A6 is a normal move here. The other move is the big move is the Berlin. Knight f6, a6, bishop a4, and now black plays d6. So he plays a slightly uncommon system, but one that you'll see occasionally. We play c3 to support d4 and give our bishop a retreat square. And then knight e7. So this is a slightly unusual way of developing, but yeah, this is called like the Steinitz system, and Black's idea is to bring his knight to g6, eventually, where it can jump into f4 and also control e5. That's the idea of this system. Also, the knight is ready to recapture with a piece on c6 if whatever takes there. The downside of the system is it's a little slow, and it lets us grab the center right away. So that's what Smyslov does. He plays d4. So now he's got 2 pawns in the center. Bishop d7, and bishop b3. And yeah, there's an important point here. White has a threat. What would you do if it were white to move here? I don't think this threat is so obvious, but it's actually a very big threat. White to move, what would you do? You can draw an arrow when you think you know what the answer is. I mean, okay, I just take it, then what? It's not that.
Okay.
But okay, let's use that idea. So bishop takes f7 is an idea. How can you make bishop takes f7 actually work? You can threaten bishop takes f7. Exactly. Knight g5 is white's threat. Now imagine that white played knight g5. If white plays knight g5, black can't defend f7 at all. Right? He's not in check. You didn't capture anything. He doesn't have to make a recapture. But he's just totally helping to defend this square if you play knight g5. So knight g5 is a very strong threat. And this is the kind of threat that's easy to overlook in a real game. So black plays h6, which keeps the knight out of g5. All right, knight d2. This is a very common way to develop your knights in the Roy Lopez. The idea is the knight is going to go here, and then it's going to control the very important squares d5 and f5. Black continues his plan.
Let me say something in this.
Nope, we're not doing that.
No, I mean to tell you, like, I don't enter it, but I just tell you.
Let's go through the game. We're going to get through the opening quickly so we have time to look at the ending. So, knight c4, the knight's continuing on its plan. Bishop e7, castles, and the knight ends up where it wants to be on e3. So this knight is controlling 2 very important squares, d5 and f5. Bishop f6, boom, knight goes on the outpost. Rook e8, and now Smyslov starts opening up the position.
I'll be right back. You talk to the viewers. I'm just getting water.
Okay. So check your water foot right by your foot.
Oh.
So d takes e5 is a good move because no matter how black takes back, white gets a nice position. In general, like, white's pieces are well developed, so it was a good time to open up the position. He gives a bunch of other lines here, but we're just going to keep on going with the main line. After bishop takes e5, we remove that bishop. Trading a knight for a bishop here is good because it's a neutral board. Knight takes e5, and queen of 3 is a nice move. So this move has two ideas.
Wait, Daddy.
Number one, hold on. Number one, the queen is targeting the f7 square. And number two, the queen is getting out of the way for the rook, so the rook can go to d1.
Can I show the video something?
No, you're not supposed to be talking, Jack. Rest your voice.
Okay.
Queen f3, bishop e6, boom. Here comes our rook, rook d1. So white is doing really well here for several reasons. He has a monster knight on an outpost square. This bishop is on a nice, beautiful diagonal. Our rook is on an open file, menacing black's queen. So white is doing very, very well here. We have a bunch of threats. What are white's threats in this position? He has actually a couple of threats. So if it were white to move, what could you play? White has two big threats.
Give me a hint.
Discovery. If it were white to play.
The only discoveries I see are this and this.
Okay, well, there's more discoveries than that. Yeah, neither of those moves works right away. Knight e7, I can just take it with the queen. Does that move work? Yeah. So knight b6 is your first threat. Knight b6 is your first threat because you're attacking an exchange, and you have a discovered attack on the queen. So you win an exchange. That's threat number one. You also have a nice threat. So your other threats, you noticed maybe that knight f6 doesn't work because they can take it, right? Knight f6 doesn't work. But you can make knight f6 work by first going bishop takes h6, and then if they take back, knight f6 is a discovered attack, winning their queen. So white has two big threats. So bishop takes d5, black had to eliminate this knight, both for the tactics reasons, and also because positionally a knight on d5 is really good, and you have to trade off good pieces like that. Rook takes d5. Yeah, he points out that we definitely don't want to take with the pawn because this blocks our bishop, and also they get counterplay by like e4. They start pushing their own pawns and gaining more space and attacking our stuff. This is no good. Rook takes d5 keeps everything under control. Hold on, Jack. We got to keep going through there. Queen e7. All right, microphone should be back. Good.
Okay, it's back.
Okay. Queen f5 is a very nice move. White is continuing to creep forward, and he has a threat of rook d7. So black stops this threat with knight f8. So let's look at what happens if he makes the more natural move of rook a to d8, which also controls d7. We can take, and take, and take,
And take.
and take,
And
because
take.
this is pinned. By the way, this bishop takes h6 was important. What does black do here if we rush, if we go too fast with queen takes g6? Now it's black to move and win. What does black do? He can't take this queen because of the pin.
Oh,
But what does black do instead?
he goes king.
Nope. Don't answer until you actually see a one of material.
Oh, not king. Okay, thanks for the hint. I got rid of this, if I got rid of this bishop, I could.
Yeah, if you got rid of the bishop, then you could take a queen.
How would I get rid of the bishop?
Well, you don't have to capture it. Maybe you can just no. Knight a5 is too slow because knight a5 gives me it's not really threatening that much. I can just retreat my queen. Rook
d1.
Yeah.
Take.
Distracting the
defender.
exactly.
Remove the defender. This is the moving the defender.
Exactly. And by the way, in this kind of puzzle, like when you're looking at a position like this and looking for a tactic, you always look at checks first, just automatically. So like rook d1, like even in just like a random position, it should just be kind of the first thing that jumps into your mind. You think about checks and captures, the super forcing moves, very quickly. But especially when all this stuff is hanging by a thread for whites, you look at checks first. So the rook d1 is winning material there.
I'll be right back.
Are you in the bathroom?
Yes.
Okay. So knight f8 stops him from going to d7, and white continues developing with bishop e3. He has an unpleasant threat of maybe coming to bishop c5 and attacking black's queen. So black plays knight e6. This is getting the knight back into the game. It's covering the c5 square. White cannot go here anymore, and it's also helping to jam up this diagonal, so the bishop is not so strong. White now doubles rooks. He's threatening rook d7 again. So black has to contest this file, so he plays rook e to d8. Now white plays a nice move that's sure enough praises in the book. He plays this quiet move g3. So this is just a little pawn move, a very patient move, but one that improves white's position a lot. So this move does a few things. Number one, it creates a flight square, so white is not getting back anymore. Are you back? Okay.
What were we talking about?
So we were looking at this little move that he made. So Smyslov in this position, there's like a lot going on in the position, and there's like captures of the d-file, and all of his pieces are aggressively placed, but he takes time for a very patient move. He plays the move g3, which has a few little points that improve his position. Number one, he stops himself from getting back ranked by making a flight square for his king. So no more back ranks. Number two, the knight is kept out of f4. And number three, it controls the square h4, which is going to become important in the endgame. And we'll see how that happens. So, rook d6, he's trying to double rooks, but this has a downside. We can take. And now this pawn is a bad kind of pawn called a backward pawn. And a backward pawn is a pawn that is behind all of its other friendly pawns. And so there's no pawns on the C or E file that can defend this d6 pawn. So it's just kind of going to be weak forever. The pawn has trouble advancing because we control the square d5 like a million times. And this pawn is a big target. So queen g4 has two ideas. Number one, we're threatening to rip this pawn. And number two, we're going to double up on the d-file with rook d2 and queen d1, attacking the d6 pawn.
King h8.
Yeah, so he's stopping bishop takes h6. That's the idea. Bishop b6 is a very nice move. This is what's called a prophylactic move. So prophylactic moves are moves that stop your opponent from doing what they want to do.
Check the mic.
Black wanted to play rook d8. Yeah, mic's still working. He wanted to play rook d8. And this move stops that. It also covers the a5 square. It takes that away from the knight. And it even stops the b pawn from moving. So this bishop b6, it stops a lot of stuff for black. Yeah, knight b8, he's trying to remaneuver his knight to kick out this bishop. That's the idea of knight b8. And he gets some other lines here, but we're going to keep on going through the main line of the game. Bishop takes e6.
I have
F takes
Queen
c6,
h4.
and queen h4. Now, why is white offering this queen trade? Because if he takes, g takes h4 is going to wreck our pawns. Why do you think Smyslov wants to trade queens? Why does he want to allow queen takes h4 and g takes h4 with all these doubled pawns?
Can I do anything else?
No, you have to tell me, but tell me briefly why. You can tell me in like 4 or 5 words. Why does he want to allow queen takes h4 and g takes h4?
Attack d6.
Exactly. So the point is that even though our structure gets wrecked over here, this side of the board doesn't really matter. That's not where things are happening. But after this queen trade, drink some water. After this queen trade, the d6 pawn is totally helpless, and the rook is just going to take it. For example, after knight d7, we can play rook takes d6, and then actually all of black's pawns are falling. Meanwhile, our weak kingside pawns are hard to get to. So white wins a pawn, he's probably going to win another pawn or two, and black is dead in this endgame. So, queen d7, he keeps the queens on the board. But Smyslov insists on getting them off. Queen d8 check. So the queens are coming off. And now we have a similar version to what we saw before. And the d6 pawn is just falling. So knight d7. Bishop c7 is attacking the d6 pawn. It can't be saved anymore. And rook takes d6. He points out, by the way, that it's easy to screw up your winning positions. For example, bishop takes d6. Rook d8 is a very nasty pin. So knight takes e4 is threatened right away. And if f3, he plays b6, and next knight b7 is coming to attack our bishop. And alright, so rook takes d6. Now we have to switch back to the physical book. So rook c8 is played. Yeah, if knight takes e4, we just take this pawn, and then this pawn's dropping as well. So bishop b6, knight a4. Okay, take another pawn.
Take.
And knight c4. If rook takes c3, then bishop to d4 is a nice move. Okay, and what should white play? This is white to play and win. What should he play? Okay, you are threatening h6, but he can defend against that threat with king g8. So let's try again. Where do rooks like to be? Yeah, you put your rook on the 7th rank. And now he doesn't have any move that defends g7. So we're just going to take g7, we're taking b7. Probably once we take on g7, like for example with the bishop, we're taking h6 as well. And all of black's pawns are just falling. Alright, so he goes knight c4 instead, only move. But good enough, defending his stuff. Takes, 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 takes. Rook to bishop 7. And pawn to king rook 4. Okay, so black is winning this pawn. But we have 2 extra pawns on the king side. And the other important thing is that our rook is very well placed. There are 2 places rooks like to be. Number 1, on the 7th rank. So a rook is on the 7th rank, where it attacks the g-pawn and restricts black's king. It keeps black's... Hold on. Yes. It keeps black's king out of the game. Number 2, rooks likes to be behind... Behind what? What do the rooks like to be behind?
Pawns.
Passed pawns.
Passed pawns.
So white's rook is going to get behind this passed a pawn, and it's going to help defend against it from queening. So the ideal square for white's rook is going to be on a7, where it attacks this pawn, keeps black's king out of the game, and restrains this a pawn. It does everything. So rook takes a2, and king to g2. And so the next part of white's plan is going to be getting his king into the game. His rook will come here very shortly onto its ideal square. And then next, white wants to bring his king in to the g6 square, where it's going to threaten checkmate and threaten the g7 pawn. Okay, h5 is a good move, stopping him from advancing this pawn. And rook to a7. So now, aside from stopping this pawn from queening, black's rook can't move. Because if black's rook moves, we just take on a4. For example, if he moves here attacking the pawn, we take on a4 and defend our own pawn. So black has no good rook moves. King g8. g4. a3. Oh, yeah. He points out that if he plays this move rook a3 to keep our king out of the game, no problem. We just play f3, and then our king can hide behind the pawns and get up to the g6 square. So he pushes. Now we do our plan. We bring our king up. Rook to king 7 and 2. Okay, so this is an important little moment. What would you play here? So be careful. I want you to think first. Don't just make a move. Think. What would you play here as whites? This is an important moment in the game. Yeah, this is very nice. So king f3 is a very good move. White could rush ahead with rook takes a3, but after rook takes e4...
White's up a pawn.
He's up a pawn, but being up one pawn when all the pawns are on the same side of the board is not enough to win in rook endings. And so this endgame is actually going to be a draw. Instead, king f3 holds on to the fact that you have two extra pawns on the king side. So these pawns, and also this king invasion, are going to be very deadly for black. And meanwhile, after king f3, black basically has no move other than rook a2. And now his rook has to be sad, hiding behind this pawn. And babysitting it forever. So king f3 is a very strong move.
And then he just moves the king.
King e3. King f8, trying to activate his king, but it's very slow, right? The only way... This is how strong the rook on the 7th is. The only way that black can activate his king at all is to go here, 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 and here. And then chase... Hold on.
This is actually important.
And then chase white's rook away. Drink water.
So, Daddy,
Drink
is
water.
something important?
Drink water first.
Okay. Don't move anything yet. Now, so I know what happens already because, Daddy, this is actually very important to, like, if you have, like, 30 minutes on the clock in a position like this, like, the king is on the F file, and you're on the E file, and you're racing to the A file, then you have to count how many files it gets, or how many files, like, you're behind, kind of. Like, so, white wins this because black's king is one file behind it.
I'm not sure I understood that.
Like, so look, I mean, white wins this because they're a file in front.
Oh, you're saying that that white gets to the queen side before black does.
Yeah.
Okay, but white's not trying to go to the queen side, actually. That's not white's plan. White wants to bring his king here. Okay. Right? If we just put white's king here,
we won.
White would be totally crushing because next he can take on g7, for example. Or he's also threatening rook a8 check and king takes g7. So that's white's plan. He wants to keep his king connected with these pawns. And we're not racing over to this pawn. We're just tying black's rook down to it with our rook. So what white does instead of king d3 in this position is he plays f3 because he wanted to move his king this way. Now, if he just goes king f4 right away, this is silly because it hangs a pawn with check. But f3 saves this pawn and gets ready to go king f4. So that's white's idea here. Rook A1. King F4.
A2.
Yeah, so if black does nothing, we're going to go here and here.
A2.
Yeah, he plays A2.
E5.
Um,
He's gotta go E5 then. Yes.
yeah, so white has to be very careful. So E5. If King F5, black had a very annoying defense of Rook F1. I'm not sure this even works. But the idea is takes.
King G6. King G6.
Oh, King G6, you have to be careful. Because I can start getting your king in some big...
King H7.
Yeah, but your king doesn't really want to be here, I think.
Alright, go
And
back
now
to my main
Rook
line.
F4, it's not so simple anymore. White might still be winning because you have Rook A8. It's definitely not simple anymore. So E5 doesn't allow this possibility. King G8. He gives a line here if King E8. Yeah, so basically, black has no moves, right? He can't move this pawn because we'll take it. What does white do on G5 check? What does white do on G5 check? No, 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 no. Very nice. Yeah, we take it off his honest.
I mean, you could go King F5 if you didn't want to en passant.
But I do want to en passant because it's a free pawn, and this pawn is a pass pawn that's with
Oh,
the queen.
or you have a passed pawn that you will never stop.
All right, so King E8. Yeah, the king's coming up. Rook F1 is threatening our pawn with check, but no problem. King E8. What is white threatening? He's threatening mate. Very nice. So he has to run away. King to queen 1, and now check. Oh, whoops. I missed a move to Rook. I missed a move. Hold up. Yeah, King F4. Rook F1. Oh. He threw in these captures first. Takes, King E8 here. Yeah, now this makes sense. Check. And we win this pawn, and we're up 1,000,000 pawns. Alright, we're almost done here. So King G8. Alright, what should white play here?
Rook takes A2.
Okay, very good. And now what?
King G6.
Yeah, King G6. Remember that before, when our king landed on G6, he had this annoying check?
But
now he
the
doesn't because of the E-pawn.
And we're threatening mate. So that's why it goes King F8.
Yeah.
Oh no, it wouldn't be mate because look at F8.
What do you do here if he plays...
That's... you go... E6, right?
Not E6. You have to be careful all the time. No matter what, the chess game is never over. You can never relax.
I knew it wasn't over.
E6 allows mates. It allows a funny mates. So we can't play E6. What do we do instead?
Okay.
Yeah, Rook A8, because we're up pawns. Right? We have 3 pawns to 1. And so what do we do when we have more pawns?
Take.
Now, how are you going to win here? What would you play to
E6.
win? Yeah, E6 is a good move.
Because now there's no mate.
Exactly. And if I go here, what do I do?
Okay, I'm not talking for this entire video.
No, you just take everything, right? Takes, and you're easily winning. You could even play...
GG.
Whatever here. Okay, so we're going to go back to the game. So King F8 instead. Check.
Rook A7 check and
Yeah,
resign.
Rook A7 check.
Resignation.
Yeah, black moves the kingside pawns. King to b6, 1. We just take this. and white's pawns can't be stopped. Yeah, so this is, we're going to end up with 2 connected passed pawns versus 2 connected passed pawns and a rook versus a rook, which is easily winning. There's one funny like ending position that can happen. I'm just going to give up this pawn to show it.
Alright. Hey, Daddy.
Hold on, I just want to show this one way of finishing the game. So if you ever get G and H pawn versus versus a king and a rook ending, this is the cool way to win. You play like H6, and okay, black has to shuffle on the back rank because if he moves his rook down, he gets checkmated now. So like here, he has to shuffle G7. Again, he can't move his rook down because we'll go check and queen. So he goes here, and now we have a very cool move. Are you ready? It's a very sneaky move.
Rook F8?
Okay, rook F8 is correct. But what did you have on this? There's only one right move here, and you need to be real careful.
H7. No, no.
No, H7, I take all your stuff.
King G6?
Yeah, King G6. This is a very, very nice move. Because you're threatening mates. And he can't do anything about it. The only thing that he can do to stop H7 mates
What can I do?
is rook F6, and then here, and you just go here.
Alright, let's do a hand and brain video.
Alright,
One game.
we ran a little over time, so we were all done. But this was a good rook ending. The main lesson, hold on. The main lesson that we learned from this game is that rooks and rook endings love to be on the 7th rank, and they're also very good behind passed pawns.
We learned that in a previous video.
Yeah, but this comes up again and again. These are like big basic principles of rook endings. Rook love to be on the 7th rank, and they love to be behind passed pawns. So, that was a good endgame. Now we're going to say goodbye to our viewers. Thank you everybody for watching. Like and subscribe. Hopefully Jack will be feeling better soon.
Smash the like button like this.
Goodbye.